On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
You can't feel invincible. You have to know that mistakes happen and you can lose money very quickly if you make mistakes. And that can bleed into your good decisions very quickly. So I fell for that trap of feeling a little invincible because I was doing so well in my one location, in my one area, that I started to make mistakes in other areas and very little control over these stores because I'm so focused on what I was doing in the other place. And then, you know what happens? The quality starts to go down of the customer experience. And that's a reflection on the whole brand. Nobody's like, oh, but that's not Sam's main store. Nobody cares, right? Like they came into your store, they had a bad experience. You're going to hear about that, right?
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolfe, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in. What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolfe, Gathering the Kings podcast. I'm your host. Coming back to you here today on the King stage. We've got Samuel Moses. How we doing, brother?
Good, great. Thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here.
Dude, I'm excited to have you here. You've got a unique business. We both have gift businesses, but in completely different ways. And I love your product. So please hurry, quick. Tell us what kind of business that you have, because I want to jump into this.
Sure, we are in the business of custom socks, and that's all we do. And we know everything about custom socks. I always tell people if you want some other product, I do not know anything about it, but custom socks, I know quite a bit. It's a gifting product where companies, only really companies, will give it out to their clients as a gift to kind of, communicate thanks to them for doing business with them, or companies that they want to do business with. So they send us their logo and colors, and our designers will create professional designs for them that kind of bring their brand alive. And then we produce the socks. It's a retail ready product with a label. It's as if you bought it in a store. It's fashionable. And then the client, call it, American Express, will hand it out to their clients as a thank you. So we only deal with companies. We deal with companies all over the world, large, mid-sized, small, from Google all the way down to a small dental practice, so everybody kind of can utilize this product as a way to communicate thanks to their clients. And our goal and our process is always about making it easy for the customer, super streamlined. Company name is Socrates. It's a play on the philosopher Socrates, obviously.
Yeah.
And the original thought behind the name was, what do your socks say about you? If you're wearing a polka dot or an argyle or a stripe, what does that mean about your personality? If you're wearing loud colors versus soft colors, what does that say about you? Are you a certain type of person because of that? So that was the logic behind it, but it's definitely turned into a process where we are creating really high quality socks, fashionable, that people are going to wear. And we work with some of the largest brands around the world. So it's an exciting business.
Yeah, I really do love it because I've experienced receiving socks as a gift with the company logo, just as you've described. In fact, the Working Genius, Patrick Lincioni, his company Working Genius, when we registered to be certified practitioners of that, or whatever, teachers, whatever, technicians, I don't know what they call that. I got a box and it had branded Working Genius socks in it. And I just thought it was just the coolest thing. And so I absolutely love this idea. And I think that every business listening right now, I think there's two things really that I want to really hone in on today's show for you, is not only just the socks. I think that's super cool. And I want to definitely talk about that, but just the mindset of gifting and how every single listener here today should be using the principle of gifting in their client journey. I know client journey is a big deal to you.
For sure. Yeah, no, I think it is part of the other businesses that I've done, but more importantly in this business, I think why it became so important to me is that I realized in the market, there was a very big obsession with, this SEO, Google ads, trying to get a new customer. Everybody's obsessed. And that is an important obsession. Okay. But what I noticed is there's less focus on when you have a customer to create the best possible experience and to do everything you can to keep that customer happy. It definitely comes from past experiences that I've had in business for sure, because every business that you have to deal with customers and there's no way around that. But I noticed in this business, in this type of time when I started the business about 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there was a crazy obsession in the business and in the market really about SEO and, about this Google ads, trying to
Right.
get a new customer. Everybody's obsessed. How do I get a new customer? Hire agencies, spend lots of money, advertising, Facebook, all this stuff. And what I did notice is that there's not as much as an obsession when you actually get the customer. You'll notice a lot of times you sign on for a service and they just send you in. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute, what just happened? It's like you're dating and then you got
Good
married
luck.
and nobody cares anymore. It's like, wait a minute, what happened to that? What happened? So
Yeah.
I said, wait a minute, why don't we focus really, really hard on getting a customer? Okay, you can't get around that. But why don't we focus even harder of once the customer's in the door, treating them in a certain way that creates a great experience for them, not customer service. Customer service to me sounds like something had to go wrong for you to do something to fix it. This is
Right.
more like customer experience. I want the customer leaving us and saying, oh man, that was great. Like, you
Right.
actually did something exceptional. It's like kind of like, when the tip is built into the restaurant bill, there's no incentive to do great service. But when you have to earn the tip, it's kind of like, oh, I got to exceed expectations here. Right. So we
Right.
created a system where when people are leaving and saying, oh, this was great. And how did we do that? You have to work backwards and say, what are the friction points that could exist and how do we take them away? And then it's all about these little things. For example, one time I had to drop off socks at a client here down in South Florida, and there was these big boxes I had to drop off. And the client, she goes to me, oh, I got to go, find a way to open these boxes because they're all packed up. So I pull a
Mhm.
box cutter out of my pocket, like a box cutter, and I hand it to her. And she goes, wait a minute, you brought the box cutter? Like you got to cover these little details sometimes. And it doesn't sound like a big thing, but when you add it all together, all these different touches, it becomes a great experience for the client where they're like, I just like dealing with this company. They make things easy for me. That's the question
That's
that you
right.
have to ask. Are you making things easy,
Yeah.
And then they'll use you again. And using you again is powerful, just as powerful as getting a new client, if not more powerful, right? And they'll refer
Yeah.
you. And so your whole business model
Absolutely.
could be, take care of the customer and let the new customers come in through that model.
Yeah. Yeah. But what you're building through the process of taking good care of them, even on the little touch points, is that you won their trust when you sold the deal. And to your point, a lot of people then it ends and then it's just like, okay, well, I got your money, I got your trust, see you later. But
Yeah,
the relationship just gets to getting started. And so it's like all these little touch points that happen after that can really turn that customer into a longer lifetime customer. Obviously, like you were just saying, referrals. But there's little pieces in here that we know. You said there's friction points. And yes, we try to eliminate them, but the reality of it is that it's business. There is going to be friction at some
definitely.
point.
Definitely.
And
Can't get
so
around it.
my experience, I really want your opinion on this because my experience is that if I know that there's going to be friction, but I'm doing the touch points well, like you're talking about, then the friction, even though it still happens and it doesn't like go over super great in that moment, the client is more forgiving because I've done
Very.
all the other touch points well. Would you agree with this?
Yes, yes. If you show them that you care about all these little points, then if
Yeah.
something does go wrong, which look, if you're doing hundreds and hundreds of deals a month, there's going to be something that goes wrong. And anybody who tells you
Totally.
that nothing goes wrong, that's already a red flag right there, right? It's because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have no
Exactly.
control over UPS. If UPS is delayed, I'm going to do the best I can to alleviate this delay, but
Right.
there's sometimes it's just out of your control. But if you're working hard to really make the experience a great experience, then when things go wrong, and hopefully things don't go wrong that often, but when they do, there's definitely more forgiveness. I read this in a book somewhere, like the doctors who have more empathy at the bedside are sued less than doctors who don't. And it actually has nothing to do with their skill as a doctor and more to
Yep.
do with their empathy as a doctor, right? So
Yeah.
yes, the doctor messed up, God forbid, but oh, he actually cared about me. Therefore, I'm not
Right.
going to sue him versus the doctor messed up. He kind of seemed like he didn't care about me and there's going to be a lawsuit. So I kind of looked
Yeah.
at it from there, but you apply it to your business or any business that's customer service business. customer experience business. And it's more about just making things easy for the client. It sounds easy,
Right.
but when you're doing it at scale, it actually is kind of hard to implement, and you have to do a good job of it,
Yeah, I want to give just a quick example. I don't talk a whole lot about our process in any of our businesses too often, but because this is like a little scenario, and we just had a little snafu here on the show, you and me hitting the record button, and the program giving us all sorts of issues the last couple of minutes. And before we hit the record button, you had mentioned some of our client experience, some of the things that we do. We send out a card, and we thank you for coming on to the show, and it reminds you of the time. It's a well done card. It's not flimsy. It's really nice, and it's like a remember the date. And we have an onboarding call, and we really try to think about the experience of leading up to the podcast for people like you who are extremely busy, who are extremely successful. We want to add value, and we want to make it easy. And so we send reminders, we send text messages, we send emails, we send smoke signals, we send the thing in the mail to make you put it on your desk and you're thinking about me for hopefully a couple of months. All of that leads to then we jump on the show. I was just telling you, I've done over 400 of these, and only 5 or 10 we've had just like weird recording issues. And for the last 10 minutes, we've been going back and forth trying to figure this thing out. But it's not like you're upset about it, because so far it's like, this is really valuable. So I want maybe speak to that from your side of that story, because what we're giving to the listener right now is like real tangible stuff that they can be doing in their business with their clients.
Yeah, I mean, in your case, the mail actually works very powerfully, because people, I don't care who you are, people are excited to get mail like that, right? Like, you don't get that anymore. And email's not worth so much anymore, but something in the mail, which like you said, was a really nice card. It just is like, oh, okay, this is like something that's important, and they've invited me to do this podcast, and I'm excited to do the podcast because there's steps leading up to the podcast. And those little touches are going to be very valuable. Like, we send out this thank you gift afterwards. Now, think about it. Somebody spent $10,000 with us, right? Do they need this small little gift? Does it change their life? Probably not. But it's the thought. It's oh, wait a minute. You actually cared about my business enough to put together a thank you package, find my address and send it to me. And then, maybe they'll give a review or something. But the point is that you did something extra. You didn't just take money and run. You didn't just look at them as a number. They're not just a line item on your balance sheet or something like that. It's the extra touch. And, it's applicable to any business. Like, you ever been to a doctor's office? Have you ever seen the experience that most of the people get in a doctor's office? It's like,
oh yes.
Like, do they even look at me like a client, as a paying customer? Like, like, what am I here? Or like
clock in, clock out.
Bank, or like some of these places where I'm lining up for things. Like, there's a way I get it. Sometimes you have to line up for things, but why can't you create a better experience while I'm lining up? Like, maybe give me the Wi-Fi password or something. But my point is that every business has a customer. That's not unique to any business. Every business has to sell something to a customer. That's what a business is, right?
That's right.
So it's like, how do you sell that, and how do you treat the people that are buying from you? And that applies to not-for-profits as well, and lots of different organizations. And your podcast of having guests. This is a relationship, right? So I got to give, and you got to give, and I'm taking and you're taking. So it's kind of like, it works well, right?
Yeah. Why for you? So inside of this client journey, I mean, I'm sure we'll continue kind of in this vein here a little bit, but to your point, every business needs it. Hardly anybody does it. It's one of the reasons, coupled with a few other things, I think that it's so easy to crush any business. But this is one of the points. It's like, just get this right here. A couple things on the front end, and you're going to crush. But my question to you is, since this is so important, cool. But like, inside of the client journey, you've chosen to partner, not just like your client journey, but you've chosen to partner with me and other businesses to help our client journey, specifically with socks. How did these things match together? Because I think it's just so unique and cool. Like, why?
Why socks in the client journey?
Yeah. Look, there's a lot of options, right? Like, I could send pins, I could send other promotional material. I own Edible Arrangements franchises. I could send an edible arrangement, but like, socks is not an edible arrangement.
Right. That's edible arrangements is a great gift, by the way. I got one of those, and I was like, that's a very nice gift. Like, you actually remember that, and you remember the people that gave that to you. So that's a good gift. Why I like socks. Socks is a great gift because it has high perceived value. So socks nowadays are not like these cheap socks that you remember from when I was growing up in the 90s, right? Like, they are high quality socks. Like, people
Yeah.
are buying socks in the store for $25 or $30 or $15.
Right.
Like Happy Socks kind of changed the world, the view of socks a little bit, to take
Yeah.
a $3 item and now make it a $15, $20 item. So there's high perceived value. When you give somebody a sock, they're not thinking to themselves, oh, this is a cheap gift that I'm going to throw out on the way out of a trade show. They're going to
Yeah.
keep it and they're going to wear it. And where does it go? It goes into their sock drawer, which is something that's very close to them in their life.
That's
right.
right.
So
That's right.
and top drawer, man. Like I say, we get into the top drawer, like first page of Google, right? Like nobody cares about the third page of Google. So
Dude,
you get
that's
into
awesome.
the top, you get into the top drawer, and the average life is, for me, I have a lot of socks, so maybe less, but for most people, 4 to 5 years, it's going to stay there in the drawer if you keep track of it. We had an insurance company one time. They gave out a pair of socks, but they made 3 socks. And then the message was, we got you covered. It's because you're going to lose one pair, right? So then it's like you have the backup pair, which is like, I thought that was genius. I thought that was really good.
I
Because
love
the whole product of insurance is covering
Yeah.
you, right?
We got you covered.
That's the whole message. So yeah, it's high perceived value. It lasts. People like wearing it. I would give you a sock and you would give it out to somebody and they would call you and actually talk about this. Like people are busy, and if they're calling you to talk about something, you've already won the game with a $10 product. I mean, unless you're giving them to-me luggage or something, who's calling you to talk about this stuff? And they are.
That's right.
Like they're actually calling you to say, hey, I love the sock. And it's like, wait a minute, that cost me $10. That's worth the phone call alone, for a customer to call you. So I do it, and I see that it works in my business. I give out socks a lot, and I notice that it works. So I think it's a good product. Another thing for us, what makes that special for us, it's a 7-day turnaround time. I kind of got a little tired of waiting 30, 40, 50 days for product. I think that it kind of ruins the experience a little bit. Imagine you say, okay, Sam, make me my socks. And 45 days later, I'm sending you a tracking number. It's just like, I don't know. I kind of moved on with my life in 45 days. This is 7 days, so 7 days, you just, a couple days later, you're getting a tracking number. A couple days later, it's showing up. So, there's that. I also have a really big place in my heart for Italian manufacturing, which I can talk to you more about, but the passion that they have for their way that they make things versus the passion that maybe is not so apparent in other countries, just the way that they make things, the generations of making things and the way that they show it. So I have that because I used to be in the necktie business, which you can imagine is not the same business as it was 20 years ago. Right?
No, but to your point, the preciseness and the quality is obviously what you drew out of that.
Yeah. If you would come with me to these necktie factories, you would think that they're saving lives with their ties, right? Like the way that they're passionate about their ties and the way that they're passionate about every stitch that goes into the tie. There's a reason why these ties are being sold for $200 in the store. Everybody always wonders, how is a tie $200? I'm like, there are $200,000 cars and there are $20,000 cars. There's different quality points, right? So, and there's nothing wrong with the $20 tie, and there's nothing wrong with the $200 tie. There's just a different product, So I saw that firsthand when I was in the necktie business, and it really made me passionate. And then when I applied it to the socks, I saw the same passion. And that's what it's about for me. I don't want to just mass produce things at scale and not be proud of what we're producing. So to me, this individual client relationship and then the production of the socks is kind of the best of both worlds. It's like creativity plus production kind of came together nicely.
I love that.
Kind of like your podcast, right? Like, you have a lot of creativity, then you have to produce it. Like you can't just send the card number. So you have a production side and you have a creative side,
Yeah, that's right. I want to encourage the listener to take what you're saying seriously, and whether it's socks or something different, that's fine. But the gifting principle is huge. But I also want to encourage you to look at socks. I want you to take a look at Socrates, and we'll get you links and stuff here in a minute. We'll put them in the show notes for the listener. Hang tight. We got more show to hear. But this is just such a great idea. I'm a huge gift giver. I'm really big on client experience. And I think that this is just such a unique and fun way. Everything that Samuel has said about the experience that he's giving to his clients, which then they're able to give to their clients, is so true because I've experienced it. I've received socks and it's like, I love these. These are great. And I wear them. And they're some of my favorite socks. And I don't know why, other than they're unique and it's cool. They're kind of soft. It's great.
Right. And there's not one day that you wake up that you don't need them, right? You need them.
Dude, I love the top drawer analogy. I just think it's so great.
Yeah.
Let's talk about you building this business. Like you said earlier, it's not your first business. And so whether it's this one or maybe a previous experience, I want to know of just a really good decision practically something that you did that kind of led to a lot of your success, something that maybe we can hit the repeat button on.
Yeah. I mean, I think in business, I'll give you an example. I had a retail store in downtown Toronto, and it was in the financial district. Think of Wall Street. Everybody walking around, there's hundreds of thousands of people walking around my store. It's unbelievable. If you would see it, you'd be like, okay, there's got to be, I just sat there one day and I was like, there's got to be a way to make a lot of money. I got hundreds of thousands of people. Every single person has a paycheck walking by. There's no unemployed people in downtown Toronto in this area because, a smoothie is $25. Okay. Like you can't be in
Right.
downtown Toronto and not have a job, right? It's like Wall Street area, downtown Chicago, these areas. So,
Yeah.
I was in the business for a few years and we're selling neckties and we're selling high quality shirts. And I'm watching the people come into my store, and for maybe 2 years. It took me 2 years to figure this out, which looking back, it should have taken me 2 days. Okay. But everything's easy
Hindsight's
looking
always
back.
20/20.
Yeah,
That's
looking
right.
back, I should have bought Apple in 2004. Okay. But I'm looking at the customers coming in and I'm noticing over the 2 years, it's a very specific person. Okay. It's a higher executive, an executive in a bank or an executive in an insurance company or a lawyer, and it's male. Okay. So it's male executive. And I'm like, wait a minute, I got 250,000 people walking by here every day. How many people are male and how many people are these executives? It's probably a small demographic. Okay. Compared to the main pool. And I'm like, why does my store that I'm paying rent for and I got staff only service this very small demographic? And some people thought that was a good thing. They're like, what do you mean? These guys have the money and they're spending. So what's your problem? And I'm like, well, my problem is I want to create an experience for everybody, not just for this small demographic, right? Relative demographic to the main pool of people. So
Right.
what I did is I brought in Happy Socks at the time. Happy Socks was very popular in 2013, 2015, these colorful socks. Okay. And I put this little briefcase in the front of the store with socks. I mean, it's the funniest picture because it's a beautiful store. And I take this little briefcase and I put socks. Okay. And I sold out in 15 minutes. Okay. 15 minutes.
Yeah.
The people that have
Yep.
never seen in my store came in, bought it. I did it again, sold out, did it again. I got a tree that holds 700 pairs of socks. I put it in the front of the store. Okay. 700 pairs sold out in 3 hours. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what is going on here? Because 200,000 people walking by, they see colorful socks, they buy. It's just like, it's so quick. We were going through that tree at one point 4 or 5 times a day. And I realized, wait a
Wow.
minute, this store has a lot more power than just selling neckties. It has power to sell other products that other people care about. And I got women in the store and I got people that maybe are entry-level people in the store. Why not? They were coming in, they were enjoying the socks. And then that led me down the route of, wait a minute, I'm not going to sell Happy Socks anymore. I'm going to create my own brand. My wife told me, I got married around that time, you got to control your life here. You got to take control of this. So
Yeah.
we went to China. We made the quality that we wanted. That was most important. We brought it in. Nobody complained that we didn't have Happy Socks anymore. They were happy to buy Socrates. And then Socrates was born. And then the company started coming to us. So the good decision that I think I made at that time, which I think my manager of the store, who now is the number 2 in my Socrates company, would agree with, is that I didn't just say, well, that's what we do. We sell ties. That's all we do, because
Right.
wouldn't have been on your podcast right now, right? Because ties is not going to do it. So I made a decision to make the store more approachable and make the store more accessible. Okay.
Yeah.
And not fall into the trap of, oh, I only sell $100 items. I'm prestigious. We're picky with who we come into the store. We didn't make that mistake, and we opened it up to the masses in a way, and it really paid off because it led me to the custom sock business because companies started coming into the store and saying, can you make me socks? You're the manufacturer. And then we started doing that, and then that was what happened. And then we're completely out of retail. And we service companies all over the world. So it was an exciting process. It was really good. And that's one example. I made a lot of bad decisions, but that's one example of good decision.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that because you can see the domino effect. I am curious to know because you're right. There's a lot of people that talk about niching down, and there's power in niching. You're niched currently. But
Very niche. Very niche. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So it's like, what was the difference there as opposed to now? I have my speculation based on ties and retail, which is just
Yeah.
a type of vehicle that maybe you were just seeing that you needed a different type of vehicle. Was there
Yes.
something different than that?
No, and socks is still applicable to a menswear store. So it wasn't such it's not like I
Totally.
started selling women's dresses or something. So it was applicable. you're right. You can't just go too wide on this. At one point I brought in, bad decision. I brought in these women's scarves, couldn't sell one women's scarf. Women's are not coming
Right.
into the menswear store to buy a scarf for themselves. And men
Right.
didn't really seem, to be honest with you, interested in buying women's scarves. So it
Nope.
didn't work. It just didn't work. I don't know why, but it didn't work. But so you can't go too crazy with this, but that product worked because that product was a natural fit. And it was a good fit because the guy would buy 2 ties and then on the way out, he'd pick up 3 socks. And then it's like, okay, now he has a better wardrobe because of our store. Make it convenient for him,
Yeah. Yeah. The secret, I think, that happened underneath all of that at the same time that just totally gave you just favor was that guys, especially well-dressed guys who are wearing suits, there's not a whole lot of variability or accessories. So your tie, maybe your glasses, your
Glasses.
shoes possibly, but your socks. Like that's all
Right,
you
the
got as
socks.
far as like changing it up and being a little spicy, And so
Especially
as a guy that likes
especially
to
in those
dress well,
formal- Yeah, especially in those formal environments, there's not much you can do, right?
Totally.
So tie and
No.
socks, and
Yeah.
people had some cool briefcases, but that was
Right.
that was a certain time, and that was pretty
Yeah.
much it. A belt, you can change up your belt a little bit, but I mean, there's not much else you can do. So that was it.
Yeah. And you're not going to express yourself in a belt, really. You could kind
No.
of, but not like,
Right.
neon green socks under my, navy
Right.
blue suit where everybody's going to see my socks and I'm going to get asked about it and I'm going to be remembered and all these cool things that happen that actually I think guys like to be a little bit variant. Like we don't really change. We don't change our hair a whole bunch. We don't have a whole lot of accessories. So for
Right.
me, a guy that likes to accessorize and dress well, socks have always been important to me, especially in the environment when I'm looking sharp with a suit or something like that. So I think
Right,
that was just
right.
like this undertow of movement and momentum that you just caught, which is great. And you rode the transition. What's been one of those bad decisions? Maybe looking now into Socrates, what's been something that you did that, we can learn from that we don't make the same mistake?
Yeah, there was this one decision that I made that haunts me a little bit. And what happened is that I was doing really well in the store with the socks, selling the socks at retail. And I kind of fell for the trap that I could put it anywhere and it would work. And I started to open up pop-up shops around Toronto. And first of all, from an operational standpoint, I had very little control over these stores because I'm so focused on what I was doing in the other place.
Yeah.
And then you know what happens? The quality starts to go down of the customer experience. And that's a reflection on the whole brand. Nobody's like, oh, but that's not Sam's main store. Nobody cares, right? Like they came into your store, they had a bad experience. You're going to hear about that, right? So we started
Yeah.
to, our quality of service in these pop-ups were not great. The quality of our displays and the way that we presented the product was not great. Some of them just did terribly. Like just, you didn't have enough people coming by to buy the socks. And
Right.
because it works in a financial district doesn't mean it works in some suburban city in a mall. Like it
Right.
doesn't translate. Like I actually
Yeah.
thought I could put it anywhere. I was telling people I'm going to open up 100 of these stores at one point, and I started to realize that there's a huge variance in how well each of them could do. Like one downside to just having a sock store, because the other store had full menswear store, was that it just takes a lot of socks to make a lot of money, right? So you need real volume. If you don't have that, it doesn't work. So I fell for that trap of feeling a little invincible because I was doing so well in my one location, in my one area, that I started to make mistakes in other areas. The equivalent would be, I always like wake up in the morning and tell my wife or the number 2 in my company, she's VP design, let's start doing blankets or let's start doing scarves, custom to customer, same model, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of like, Sam, stay focused because you're doing well with this one product. It doesn't mean you could start selling deck of cards and it's going to work, right? So, or
Right.
hats or something. So it also doesn't mean that I can't do it, but right now I think the key is to become and to be the expert in socks that we are. And the one
Yeah.
product, that's why people come to us when they see, if they see that we're doing beanies and we're doing mugs and we're doing all this stuff, all of a sudden you get watered down very quickly. So we want to
Yeah.
be true to ourselves. We want to just be true to what we're doing, So the lesson that I learned from all of this, to answer your question, was you have to remember that there is a high chance of you being wrong in any decision that you make, 50%. I think somebody told me 50-50, right? And you got to make sure that 50, if you're wrong, it doesn't wipe you out, right? So you can't feel invincible. You have to know that mistakes happen and you can lose money very quickly if you make mistakes. And that can bleed into your good decisions very quickly.
That's
Things
right.
can turn on you. Things can turn on you, you know?
Yeah, I want the listener to hear what you said in that last sentence is that oftentimes it's the bad decisions that bleed into the good.
Yeah.
It's not that you haven't made any good decisions. It's just there just wasn't enough, excess there to cover your mistake. And so I think that that's actually the right formula, right? Like we just want to make enough good decisions. I don't have to make them all good. I need to make enough of them to cover the bad ones.
Yeah.
Which is really just risk analysis. We're just talking about, how can I formulate this business or these decisions together over the course of this quarter or a year. And you're kind of analyzing and you're pushing things back and forth. I absolutely love, I don't know if you've realized this, but what you've done is that you've said at the beginning, niching was terrible. I got out of the niche and I made more money. But now your answer is I'm staying focused and I'm niched.
Right.
But I love it. There's no contradiction here. And I want to make this clear to the listener because I think some of it's just business maturity. You've expressed that as you've grown and developed, also putting people around you that have helped keep you focused, because if you hadn't had those people, you'd probably be trying still all these things, because that's what we do as entrepreneurs. We're all over the place.
Yeah.
But outside of just the maturity, it is the vehicle choice. And I think that's what you were looking at. You had a retail, high rent, and you could only get so nimble in a situation like that. There's only so many points of margin that you can get in that type of environment. And so you transitioned to vehicles, not necessarily niches. I think you just upgraded your vehicle. And now you're like, okay, I'm in the right vehicle. I'm going deep. Would you kind of agree with that analysis?
That's what it is. That's exactly it. It was like, I went a little wide, found my niche, followed that tunnel through, and now I'm really niche. And, retail store, you could service a certain amount of people in a very small demographic, in a geographic, a very small area, right? And this business, we get customers from all over the world. And the one thing I noticed with every customer, whether it's from Israel or from the United Kingdom or France or Germany or the US or Canada or other countries, they care about customer service. That's what they care about. They care about being taken care of. And if you have that, that's a language. You don't have to, the language is good customer experience. That is the language when you deal with them. So yeah, I went from kind of like figuring it out. Actually, when I was in my 20s, people would always make fun of me because I would literally try a lot of businesses. I would just keep trying things. And then, in my 30s, I started to focus, and now I'm in my early 40s here. And I really am focused. Like I'm really set on this one path. Now, that doesn't mean I don't wake up every day and tell my wife a new business idea. Okay. But she kind of knows that I'm not going to do it because it's been 10 years of this new business ideas, so, and I have a lot of new business ideas, but I'm really staying focused to the socks, and I'm really trying to build something, keep building something special that we have,
Yeah. I think it's just so relatable. So I appreciate you sharing even the piece about your wife, because my own story is the same. My wife now, years ago, she stopped inquiring. Like I would tell her an idea and she'd be like, oh, that's cool. What about this? And what about that? And she thought we were doing, and it was like a week later, she's like, I'm talking about something different. And she's like, well, wait a second. What happened to the idea from last week? I'm like, oh, that's dead in the water. She's like, wait, what? So she just doesn't ask anymore.
There was a letdown. She's like, oh, okay. And then that happened 30 times. And she's like, okay, I get it. You're not actually going to be doing these things. But there's value, which I tell my friends in my, my family, there's value in just thinking like this, like having the brainstorming aspect. I think maybe I go a little too far because that's all I talk about sometimes, but there is value in just talking things out, this business, seeing the value in the business. And then, in the case of your wife, she understands that you're just going through an internal process of discussing things,
Yep.
Hey, Kings and Queens, Chaz Wolfe. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow.
Yep. There is that formulation, and out of the 100 good ideas, well, we think they're good ideas. Out of the 100 ideas, one maybe
Right.
good idea comes out of it. I love the little spin there that you put on being able to discuss it, or having that framework, or even that space to be able to do that. I mean, it's what we're doing
Yeah.
right now, and
That's it. Yeah.
it's exactly why Gathering the Kings exists as a mastermind group, because we've got guys and ladies in the group from all different industries: service, home
Yep.
service, commercial service, real estate,
Yep.
tech. I mean, you name it. And so when you bring that, group around the table, and it's all equal, we all sit equally
Yeah.
around the table,
Yeah.
and it is just what you just talked about, but like times 100, the magnification of that. We get off of a roundtable call, and it's like my brain is spinning. I wasn't even in the
Yeah.
hot seat, and I'm just like all this fuel, this flood of ideas and
Yeah.
inspiration, and like, oh, he's doing it, she's doing it. Like, let's
Yeah.
go. So
Yeah.
anyway,
And
I
you
think it's
leave
really good.
inspired. I can imagine that you leave very inspired, because you're like, these people
right.
are so passionate about their businesses, and we all have something in common, is that we want to create something special, and we are inspired
right.
by the day of work that we have, So you probably
That's
leave
right.
those sessions very inspired.
Oh yeah. 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 And it's like, this is a micro version of that. Someone listens to this show, listening to us, you and I going back and forth here, and they're like, okay, all right. Okay, customer experience, gifting, socks.
Right.
I got it. Let's run.
Right. Right.
But it gives them fuel, hopefully, ideally, so that they can, because they're going to run straight into a brick wall later this afternoon, because that's business. Good luck. We're going to need all the courage we can get. So hopefully you
Yeah.
listening to Sam here is giving you the extra fuel that you need. I want to transition, Sam, because there's not just business. You've made good decisions. You made bad decisions. Appreciate you sharing all that. Your mindset on gifting is spot on. I love it. Customer journey. What about the other things outside of business? I'm just a huge fan of being, like winning in all areas of life. For me, it's my marriage, it's my children, maybe some other things that you like to do outside of that. But how are you winning practically in those areas, or obsessing is what I like to say, at the same time as going deep and staying super focused in your business?
Yeah, I take a lot of pride in my family life. I have little children at home, and I like to actually balance the work that I do with spending time with them and giving them the tools that they're going to need to be successful adults. I always say, we're not trying to build amazing children, we're trying to build amazing children that are going to become successful adults, right?
That's right.
So I'm always spending a lot of time with them and trying to give them the tools to succeed in what I think would be a successful life. What you're talking about, winning in life. I actually use that term. I don't
Love
know if
it.
my wife loves that term, but I think it's a great term. Like, you want to win in life. And some people always assume that when you say win in life, somebody else has to lose. It's not true. Everybody can
No.
win in life.
Yep, that's right.
It's not mutually exclusive that I win and you lose. So it's fine. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
the term. And one thing I do, and some people make fun of me about it, but my son has a online business. He's 9 years old, and he does the
Wow.
photography, and he sells locally, and he actually does really well. And it's a way that we connect with each other, because we can talk about,
Yeah.
because we manufacture the product in China, and we can talk to each other, and we can understand each other a little better, and we bond, and we take photos, and we go out to these shows, and I stand behind a booth and I sell with him. And he really loves it. And I don't think he only loves it because there's some profit at the end, but I think he loves it because we're spending time together and we're bonding.
Yeah. Yeah.
So some guys go fishing with their kids, and I, for some reason, sell product with my kids. We're always pushing it. We're always like trying to read
Yeah.
together, and we're spending a lot of time together. I definitely on the weekends try to turn off my phone, where I'm present with them for 48 hours, which is really important. Me and my wife, we have a great relationship. We go out a lot. We spend a lot of time together. And overall, I actually do a lot of business consulting kind of for free to my friends and family, where they would need advice, and I kind of help them with that. And I believe that actually gives me more than them in a way, because I'm kind of sharing
Absolutely.
my ideas, and I'm kind of like, in a way, helping them and making sure that they're also hitting their goals in life. So
Yeah.
you make a good point, though, because you can have a great business and not a great life, right? And you can have
Yeah.
a great life without a great business in a way. So it's
Yeah.
like, you always have to be mindful of that. And when I hit 40, it kind of like, wow, my wife woke me up at 5 a.m. for some reason and took us all to the beach, because we live in Boca Raton, and we watched
Yeah.
the sunrise,
Beautiful area.
and some friends were like, that was a weird 40th birthday, but she took us, and we watched the sunrise, kind of like a new start. Like, if there's anything that
Yeah.
you're missing in your life, let's turn it around now and let's work
So
on it.
good.
And I think I did that. Yeah. So So yeah, you definitely ask a great question. It's like, how are you winning in life? Not just how are you winning in
Yeah.
business? Because if you're over focused on winning in business, that sounds to me that you're probably missing out on other things. And I don't want to
Yeah.
wake up one day the same way you don't want to wake up one day and your kids are like 30 and you're like, oh, what happened? Like, because I know you have little kids as well.
That's right.
I just missed a lot. I just missed a lot of moments. And why am I
Yeah.
missing these moments? And I
Yeah.
believe that you can be and I can be successful without missing the moments that are important outside of business.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to stop the listener right now. Just stop you in your tracks. I want you to hit the rewind button for 2 minutes. And I want you to listen to everything Sam just said again. Because it wasn't just about family. It was about winning in all areas of life
Yeah.
and unto what we call the exceptional life. You said great life. The exceptional life is this, picturesque thing that we have in our minds, especially for people that resonate. When I say winning, someone like you is like, yes, maybe not your wife. Okay, fine. Someone's listening here today. The people that resonate with winning, they want more out of life. We say in Gathering the Kings, grateful, but not done. I'm so like right here in the moment going, wow, this is a beautiful place, but I'm not done. And I'm definitely not staying here. Although it is beautiful, there is more. And so there's this place where winners like you and me have to get to, and that's okay. And sometimes we need a 40 or 5 a.m. sunrise to help us reset things, or sometimes it's listening to a podcast. And Sam Moses is getting down your throat about how to win in all areas. But what we need as entrepreneurs is, at least entrepreneurs like us, we have to win. And that looks like all areas. It can't just be one or lopsided, and it's definitely not balanced. It's like all in, all of them, all at the same
Yeah.
time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was in business school many years ago and we were in a class and one of my friends there, everybody was talking about, they want to make a lot of money and they want to live in a big house and they want to maybe fly private jet and they want to have all these things. And there was one gentleman and, I'm very close with him today. And he goes, I actually think that if I made a lot of money, that would be great because I can give away more money. And I was like, oh, that hit me a little bit. Like, wow, he wants to be a winner. He wants to win in business and he wants to do great and he wants to build something magical. Okay. But his mindset was that I'm going to give money away. I'm going to help other people. I'm actually going to do something with that money that's, nothing wrong with the things that they were talking about. Okay. If that's what your
Sure.
dreams are, there's nothing wrong with that. But this
Yeah.
person was like, me being successful equals other people getting help. And to me, that was like, oh, that's a major insight. And I've remembered that for 20 years now. And I always go back to that. I'm like, that's interesting. There's nothing wrong with winning because you can take your winnings and help other people. Right.
Yeah. Well, you said it earlier, just because you win doesn't mean that someone else has to lose. That's not how
Exactly.
success, that's not how money, abundance, happiness, that's not how any of that works. That's not the law of how those principles operate. To your point about this gentleman, what I have found, not only in my own story, but I've heard it in yours here today, as well as just the hundreds of other interviews that I've done, is that we all start out in business for ourselves, like whether it's the big house or the money or the whatever. And that's okay. We call it the warrior stage. And you got to like
Warrior.
really
Yeah.
get into it, right? Because you're fighting the battle every single day for yourself. Okay, fine. But at some point, you transition to kingship. And what that looks like is you have influence and impact and the responsibility of the crown. Everything that you just said that he was talking about, he felt the weight of other people around him. And it was his responsibility and duty to make it happen on their behalf. That is
Right.
kingship. And you're doing it right now. I mean, you're lifting up companies all across the world. And it's like, no, we have to do this client journey thing right. Your business, your family, all the other families attached to it it all comes down to socks. No.
Right. Somebody once told me that the responsibility and challenge of being wealthy is harder than the challenge of being poor, but everybody wants the challenge of being wealthy. But so it's
That's right.
like, it's harder to be wealthy because you have to do certain things. You have to help people and you have to
Yeah.
take care of things. That's definitely the case, but everybody wants it, right? Everybody wants that challenge,
Yeah. Everybody thinks that they want it. And the distinction is the people that are listening right now who are like you and me, they'll actually take the action, the practical
Yeah.
things that you've given them here today, and they'll start working towards that so that they can actually help those people around them. And it's like the responsibility of the crown that we're talking about here. It's like some people shy away and they're like, ooh, that sounds kind of heavy. And it is, because there's long days and long nights and a lot of responsibility that comes with that. However, it's so fulfilling. And the guys like you and me, they're like, no, it's just winning. That's all it is. Like, no, put the
Yeah.
weight right here. I got it. I got big shoulders. Come
Yeah.
on, give it to me.
Yeah, and there's no shortcuts. You got to put in the work. You got to work hard, and you got to be the most important thing. Like everybody knows, you just got to be consistent. You can't work for 3 days and take 2 off. You got to really be consistent over a long period of time. That's what I learned from my father. He's just consistent. I never know a day that he didn't go to work. Like he's sick, he's not feeling well. It doesn't matter. He went to work because
Right.
was what he had to do. So no complaints, no complaining, none of that stuff. It's just you got to be consistent and you got to do it over a long period of time, and then the magic will start happening. And then
That's
and then
right.
you'll feel really good about the results.
That's right. Sam, I got one last question here for you. We have been all over the place in business and your experience and story. But I want to know if you had the opportunity to just rewind time, reach back to the younger Sam, whisper in his ear, what would you tell that guy?
I think I would tell him not to be so stressed about, looking so far into the future to try to see myself as successful and just kind of enjoy the process as it comes along and make the
Yeah.
decisions as they come along and trust it. Actually, I have a very good business school friend of mine. We were in the consulting world when we first came out of school. We were traveling all over the world. We were getting very burnt out, and we had made the decision to leave the firm and do something else. And we were walking around, this popular street downtown Toronto, and we were just very nervous. I was very nervous, sorry. And he said to me, he's like, Sam, you got to believe in yourself. The same way you got here is the same way you're going to be able to make good decisions to get to the next step and build your own dream. And I'd already
So
made the
good.
decision to leave, but I was very nervous about it because, paycheck and all these things. So I would think I would trust myself a lot more and enjoy the process more to get to where I had to get to versus being so worried about trying to get to that spot. Enjoy the journey. We always talk about journey versus looking at everything as a destination, right? Like if you want to get married, don't just be obsessed with the idea of getting married. Enjoy the process of dating, and then you'll probably end up very happily married, right? So it's like
Yeah.
kind of like that. Don't obsess over the destination. Enjoy the journey to get to where you want to get to, because at the end of the day, is there a destination? Like you just keep going, right? You're just going to keep
Right.
everything just keeps going.
Exactly.
Your goals change, your life changes. So there's no real
That's right.
destination in mind anyway, right?
That's right. That's right. You said something in the first sentence, which was just picture yourself as successful and then enjoy the journey. And I think what you gave to your younger self there, and hopefully the listeners taking this away, it's not don't live in the future and don't project and have goals like what you were just saying. Vice versa, just being in the moment. It's both. It's no, just picture yourself as successful. You're looking forward, and the only reason you're anxious is because you don't have a clear picture. So just imagine it clear, imagine success, and be present. And so I think that
Yeah.
that is just such a powerful thing and very difficult for guys like you
It's very difficult.
still today.
The stress levels are always high. Like, my wife is going to listen to this and be like, really, because you get stressed out and you get nervous and because you know
Yeah.
why you get stressed out. It's because you care so much, right? You care
Yeah.
about this business and you care about the people in the business, employees, and you care about your clients. And you just, and also, in our case, we have young families. So there's always that's on you. So,
Yeah.
it's easy to say, hard to do, but the bottom line is it is the right thing to do. So that's the
Yeah.
answer.
It's good stuff. Sam, I want to give the opportunity for the listeners to not only connect with you as an entrepreneur, but how do they find your socks, man? How can they use your
Sure.
product to enhance their own client journey and get awesome socks?
Sure. Super easy. They just reach out online, Socrates Custom, that's sockratescustom.com. They fill out a form to get started and we make it super easy. They send us their logos. We send them back the designs for them to look at back and forth a few times. You can solidify the design and then we produce it. 7 days later, they get their socks, all made in Italy, high quality stuff. So it's socratescustom.com. Of course, if anybody wants to reach out to me, if they have some ideas about Socrates or looking for a job, we're always hiring good people. It's sam@socratescustom.com. And I can obviously get back to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, love it. We'll put all that in the show notes as well. I look forward to not only doing business with you, but hopefully interacting with you and your company for a long, long time. Thank you for
Yeah.
being here. We wish you nothing but success on all of the things that you have your hand to, including your family and all those things that you're teaching those kids.
Great. Thanks so much for having me. And of course, much success with your podcast and your businesses as well.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. what I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.